Hello everyone. I have a big decision that I need to make this year, which is I'm planning on buying a house, and I need to decide where exactly I'm going to buy my house. And I'm having some trouble making the final decision. I have lots of really good options, and each option has advantages and disadvantages, and I'm just need a way to really sort of weigh them against each other and hopefully come to a decision. I thought that I would, in order to help me do this, I would write a small little app that would help me manage the different choices and be able to compare them against each other and hopefully just help me make this decision. And what I thought I would do is actually screencast um, the building of this app. I've had some questions for what it is that I actually do and what does it look like, and so I thought I'd use this as an opportunity to demonstrate that process. So the very first thing I'm going to do is open up my terminal and switch over to my workspace. All my projects are in this one workspace, so it provides sort of a jumping off point, and I will make a new directory to hold all of these files. So what do I want to call this? I'm going to just call this, keep it simple, I'll call this the decision tool. And then what I want to do is make a plan. So I'll create plan.md and um, yeah, so let's see here. This is going to be called decision tool. And what does it need to do? So the very first thing I want to do is write the decision that I want to make. After that, I'm going to probably enter the factors that I want to use in making the decision. I want to enter the choices um, that I have. Um, I'm going to score each choice based on the factors. And then we're probably going to run some analysis of some kind to see which one scores best. Um, so I think that's the basic plan. And there's lots more that I want to eventually add in this tool. I think that I'll use it more for things more than just um, you know, buying a house, but this will give us a good start and provide hopefully a pretty good demonstration. So let me write this out, and you know what? I forgot to switch into my little directory, so I put it in the wrong place. So I'm going to move plan.md over to decision tool, and actually now move into decision tool, and I should see my plan.md, which is in there. So I'm going to get init dot, which initializes my Git repository. If you don't know what Git is, it is a source control manager. And basically what it does is it provides a way to hold different versions of your code, be able to switch between them, try different things in a pretty easy manner once you learn the tool. So if you're a developer and you're not using a source control manager, definitely start doing that. But otherwise, it's just a useful tool. So highly recommended. All right. So the next thing I want to do is commit my plan. So I'm going to add the plan.md, and I'm going to git commit, and I'm going to add a message. And the messages in your repository helps you basically know what's exactly in your commit. So this is just adding the plan. Now the next thing I need to do is actually create a git ignore file. So I'm going to touch the git ignore file. So we have that in place. And the reason why we need that is I'm going to be using Node JS to build this application. And so that's going to mean JavaScript and React. And when you do that, there's a lot of extra things that appear in your directory that you don't want to put in source control. And having this git ignore file means you can tell Git to just ignore these files. So I'm not going to have my node modules in source control. So let me actually go ahead and open a code editor, and um, should have this, and there we go. There's my git ignore. So I'm just going to put node modules in there. And so now we have one pending change, and I'm going to go ahead and commit that as well. So git status, you should see, okay, it's untracked, git add done, commit shim adding git ignore with node modules. Okay, so now we have our second version out and ready to go. So now the next thing I need to do is start setting up my JavaScript application. And the very first thing I'm going to do as part of that is add something called webpack. And webpack basically takes your code and wraps it up, yarn add webpack, wraps it up into a nice package that's going to run in your web page, and it just makes distributing your code much easier while you're building your code in lots and lots of different files. And so there's a few parts of this that I want to add. So I've added webpack. I'm going to add webpack CLI, and also webpack dev server in a second. Webpack dev server. And so now, as we look at this, there's been a couple new files added automatically. We have a package.json, and this just has sort of declaring the things that I just added. So we see webpack, webpack CLI, and webpack dev server. It's also added this yarn.lock file, which has a whole lot of stuff in it. This file is auto-generated, so it even tells you do not edit this file directly. So definitely follow those directions, but let's go ahead and commit those into the repo. So let me add that, git commit -m. Adding, actually, you know what? This is too early, because the next thing I want to do is actually set up webpack. So let me do that. In order to do that, I'm going to have something called a webpack config. So webpack.config.js. All right. So what's going to be on my webpack? So this is basically how I'm telling it, telling webpack how to build my application. We're going to need a few things here. The very first thing is we are dealing with HTML, and so I'm going to add a couple webpack plugins that's going to help me there. So yarn add HTML webpack plugin, and I'm going to add my clean webpack plugin. This just makes sure that your build directory is completely cleaned every time you build, which is a nice. That way you don't have nothing sort of lingering in between your builds, and that's definitely a problem if you have that happening. So clean webpack will prevent that from being there. So now I need to write this thing. So the very first thing I'm going to bring in is path, which I will need to use because I'm going to be working with the file system a little bit. So now I'm going to bring in my plugins that I just plugin equals require HTML webpack plugin and clean webpack plugin. There we are. And I also like declaring my build folder. That way, if it ever does need to change for some reason, it's there, and I'm going to refer to it a couple different times in my script. So I'm just going to put this up as a constant here. And for this one, it's really just going to be build. Like that. Okay. And then, so now I need to define my exports. Module.exports equals this mustaches, and here we go. So the entry is, for now, just going to be source/index.js. Now this doesn't exist yet. We're going to get there in a minute. Dev server. This defines the dev server options, so I'm going to give it content base. This is equal to / and then my build folder, and this should be, there we go. And next thing, the port. Port is usually 3000, but when you have several of these, it's nice to have them on different ports. So I'm going to say 3042. And the other thing that I want to do is history fallback. History API fallback. And this is just a setting that says if you ask for any file except for index.js that doesn't exist on the file, or index.html, it's going to serve that up instead. Okay. So next thing I need to do is do some configuration of the plugin. So I'm going to say new clean webpack plugin. and that's just gonna say build folder. That's like I said before, clean the build folder, and next thing is the plugin, and so the title is gonna be title is gonna be decision tool. That's what's gonna appear sort of at the top of the browser when we see that happening, and I'm gonna hash it to true. Okay, and then the next thing here is I'm going to define some output options. And the file name is just going to be main.js. And the path is going to be path.resolve. And I'm going to say dir name and build folder. Alright, and the public path is just going to be a slash. So, yeah, pretty straightforward. And then provide some basic modules. Actually, we don't need any modules yet. Okay, so that should handle that. Now the next thing I need to do is go create this source index. So create a new file, source/index.js. And I'm just going to have a simple console log in here, and it's just going to say hello world. Oops. Alright, so now with that in place, I ought to be able to start up a browser and see what happens. So let me open up a browser, and let's go to localhost colon 3042. Oops, doesn't actually, I need to actually start it first, so let's do that. Oh, yeah, sorry, I'm trying to do too many things too fast, so oops. I need some scripts here that is going to define what to do. So I'm going to run start. Oops, I don't want it capitalized. This is where I set up the webpack dev server, and the config is going to be webpack.config.js. The mode is going to be development, and tell it that I'm going to be in dev mode, and inline. I said inline, I wrote include, but source map. I like having that there. I don't use it very often, but if I need to, it'll be there. So now I will run yarn start, and what did I do? I forgot to type scripts correctly. Alright, so now, again, yarn starts, and build filter. See? Another typo. There's that. And here we go. No license field, that's fine. Clean Webpacks only accepts an option plugin, or an options object. So clearly I did something wrong here. Clean Webpack plugin, build folder. I wonder if they've upgraded this since the last time I used, because that totally has worked in the past. So let's go clean Webpack plugin. A lot of dev work is just trying to keep up with things, and so sometimes things change and you're don't know about it, and so yeah, you just have to see what's up. We'll remove, by default this plugin will remove all files inside webpack's output.path. So you know what? I don't think we need to configure this at all. So here we go. Let's just do that. And try it again. Hey, it compiled successfully. And now, if I come back over here and say 3042, it says decision tool. And if I open up the console, we see hello world. So it's loading up our script, it's outputting to the console, and I'm going to say that Webpack has been set up successfully at this point. So I think at this point, this is now a good commit because I've set up webpack. That's a nice bit of work. So let's see what my status looks like. So I have package.json, yarn.lock, and I have my source index.js and my webpack config. So I'm going to add all of that and commit it, and I'm just going to say that this is setting up webpack. Alright, now with that in place, everything's green, and I think that I will end episode 1 here. So in the next section we'll be setting up React, and I think I will see you over there. Thanks a lot for watching. I hope you enjoyed it.